Greetings! This is Imaduck, and welcome to episode 2 of Quack Poker. If you haven't watched the other episodes, probably go back and watch the other episodes. There's really just one other episode and then a pilot episode or whatever that I was kind of just testing things out. But the basic idea is I'm going to be doing exactly what you see me doing here, which is playing some No Limit Hold'em, 5-cent, 10-cent stakes online on the lovely Juicy Stakes poker site. So yeah, gonna play some poker, gonna talk some beer, gonna do some interesting things. Right off the bat, we've got sort of an interesting hand. It's maybe a little loose to call here with the ace-9 suited. I'm gonna go ahead and call here too again, because we can get nice turns cards like that here. Let's see what this guy has to offer. Okay, he's got nothing, so it looks like he's just kind of giving up here, so we're probably going to get it. Anyway, I had a lot of great feedback about my last episode, where, interesting. I think I'm just going to call here. We'll see what happens. Okay, he shows up with kings. Sure, why not? Alright, I don't feel too bad about how we played that hand, but we're not going to talk about that hand because we're going to talk about my last episode. I was actually kind of a little disappointed with how I played. I think I made some bad decisions, in various parts of my previous video and all that good stuff. But we had some good discussion of it going on the Something Awful forums, if you're not part of that. It is a lovely community. We don't have a ton of poker players, but we got enough to keep the conversation very lively, very interesting. A lot of them are very good, so it's pretty nice. Anywho, so I had some great discussions there, so we're going to see if maybe we learned something, see if we change things around a bit, and I'm just looking to get more feedback from you guys about how you think I'm playing, what you think I'm doing right, what you think I'm doing wrong, or if you have questions for me, or if you want to learn some things, well, come out and put some comments either here on YouTube. I'll respond to all of those, or on the Something Awful forums. Are usually the best ways to get in contact with me. Anywho, so like I said, we are just playing some No Limit Hold'em here once again. And of course, as always, we will have with Quack Poker, the beer of the week. The beer of the week is a very special beer of the week this week. This is Uncle Jacob's Stout. It is like a super limited edition, super heavy stout from Avery Brewing Company that's been aged for a very long time in bourbon barrels. Apparently, Uncle Jacob was the guy who came up with bourbon in the first place, and so they made a lovely bourbon-aged stout for him. I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for this bottle or how hard it was. I will say that I could only buy one bottle of it, and I've never tried it before, so you get to see my very initial reactions with this lovely, lovely beer. It is rated very, very highly on all the sites. It's also super alcoholic, 16.5%. So this is going to be quite the nice little heavy beer here. I'm going to open it, of course, with my official Avery opener. All right. Smells good out of the bottle. Nice, dark, and heavy. Unfortunately, I don't have an Avery glass to pour this in. And of course, if you believe in the... I should really just be doing a straight pour with this lovely stout, but, people debate on that. So there we go. To good beer and bad poker. Oh, it smells wonderful. It is super dark. Wow. Yeah. Okay, so you can definitely smell all of the bourbon in this. So if you don't know, aging beer in barrels is like the hip new thing. I mean, it's been around for a while, but it's really caught on with a ton of craft breweries over the past couple of years here. Basically, you can do it for a couple reasons. One is the instill flavor, so especially with either wine barrels or whiskey barrels, you can get some of the flavor of the whiskey that was in there previously. So you take these from old distilleries or old wineries, you can get some of the flavor of what was there previously into there. And definitely, if you've ever had a whiskey barrel aged beer, you know it. I mean, usually you get a lot of whiskey flavor out of it. Whew, that is heavy. Yeah, this is one you got to drink slow. The other reasons, you can also get some flavor out of the wood as well, if you want that. So if you want some oaky flavor to it, or various other flavors, depending on what kind of woods you want in it, you can get that out of having it in the barrel. And then the other advantage, so you can also use barrels instead as sort of breeding grounds for certain things. So because the wood surface is so porous on the inside, you can grow a lot of nasty bacteria and a lot of nasty yeast in there. And I say nasty, but sometimes they're exactly what you want. And so if you want to grow a lot of that kind of stuff for your beer, barrels can be great breeding grounds for that kind of stuff. And you can do all sorts of fun stuff with sour beers and other things in old barrels. So, yeah. So anyway, but yes, barrel thing, it's a hip new thing in beer. It's still, though, it's not, it's very hard for them to do very large production runs of these things because you can only use the barrels once, maybe twice. Sorry, and I signed up to be on a lot of tables here. I am going to 3-bet this guy. We're out of position, so I'm going to go a little more than 3x here for my 3-bet. You can complain about the sizing, I don't know. But we've got a solid hand. We don't know anything about this player. No reason not to just go ahead and raise him here with the ace-king offsuit. But anyway, yeah, the barrels... You still don't see very large production runs of a lot of the barrel-aged stuff, and that's mostly because it's just... You can only use the barrels once for the most part, and really expect to get the flavor out of it, especially, if you're trying to use, like, whiskey barrels. So, you pretty much, you have to have a big supply of those, and they're pretty expensive, hard to get, really hard to manage, they take a lot of space, you have to age them for months and months and months. They said these ones spent 6 months in the whiskey barrels. So so anyway, there you go. This beer is pretty amazing. This is definitely, this is probably one of the, if not the highest alcohol beers I've had. And the other high alcohol beers I've had have not tasted this good. This is just very dark, very rich, very bourbony. This is an amazing beer. I'm glad to be sharing it with you folks. Although you may have trouble finding it in stores. You may have to go to like specialty stores to get it. And like I said, they only let me buy 1 bottle. They said they had 6 bottles in the store. And I had to ask a special guy, and they went to the back room and got it for me and all this kind of stuff. Didn't tell me the price or anything till I got the cash register. That kind of stuff. But it's a good beer. I'm proud to be trying it. I guess Avery puts out a few of these a year, but I think they said something, I don't know, I think it even says on here only a few hundred cases of this were made or something like that. I don't know. Not that much. Then distributed all throughout the country. Oh no, 848 cases were produced, and this was bottled June 27th, 2013. All right, but anyway, we're here to talk poker, not beer. I think all the hands I've played so far, other than that first one you saw, have been pretty self-explanatory. That first hand I played, I was playing it kind of loose, and I wasn't sure if the guy was bluffing on the river. I'm not going to go back to that hand. First hand, whatever. Don't ask me about. I wasn't totally into it anyway because I was thinking about getting the recording set up. Probably isn't the normal way I'd play that hand, but whatever. Anyway, but if you want to criticize it or say, yeah, no, you did the right thing, whatever. Here, we're just going to fold the J2. I'm not super excited about it. Ace-King hand was, I think, incredibly standard. We did a 3-bet with a strong hand against someone who's min-betting from the button. Got called, flopped a great flop for us, so we're going to keep on betting for a little bit of protection, too, in case they're on the flush draw or anything, but also to get value. Maybe they've got Ace-Jack or something, and then we can just really go hog wild. I don't think there's any reason to try and slow play that hand at all, especially here against a player that we don't know anything about. If we knew something about this player, that they were just aggressive and they would bet at everything no matter what, maybe we could change our play. But really here, like I said, if he's got Ace-Jack, we can, or Ace-Queen maybe, we could probably get a lot of money in the pot, which are possible hands for him, or if he's got like Jacks or Queens or Kings or something like that, we could probably get a lot of money in the pot. So we're much better just betting at it here as opposed to letting him draw some outs with some other weird hands, like if he's got a 9-10 and hits a 9 or something like that. Just trying to get some value here and trying to establish that we're going to be very aggressive here as well. Remember, if you're going to play very aggressively and c-bet most flops and things like I like to do, then you need to do it with your good hands and your bad hands to really balance things out. You can't just be like, oh, I'm going to slow play every good hand and bet with every bad hand and see how that works. Number one, it's probably not the best way to get value. And number two, it's pretty transparent if people are really paying attention. At this stake level, maybe you could just assume people aren't paying attention and try to get away with things like that. But like I said, I also don't think it's the best way to get value either. Another ace king for us. Of course, this time it's suited. I'm actually, and I should be consistent with my bet sizes because I bet from the cutoff earlier. Actually, no, I'm going to bet still min raise here. There was some discussion. I've had a lot of discussion with people about how we want to do the bet sizing for this kind of stuff. I think I am going to change my bet sizing a bit. So I think for middle position, I'm going to go for like 25, which I'm going to call what I'm at right now, middle position, even though we're technically under the gun. I'm going to call this middle position because we have an empty seat here. But for middle position, I'm going to do 25. From under the gun, I'm going to do 30 cents. So it's a little slightly bigger bets than I normally do. People, I think, are still thinking, oh, that's probably slightly smaller than what you're doing. I'm still trying out the bet sizing thing. There's I've read a lot of different things in various books and various articles and seen in various videos about what people have to say about these things. Here with this flop, I mean, this is a pretty dry flop. It's kind of your standard C bet E flop. We don't have a lot of equity after this, but unless we hit another club maybe, but we can at least put one bet out there to see if we can get it. He makes a pretty big raise here, and we have no choice but to fold here. I mean, we don't have any equity with our current hand. It could be bluffing. We don't know anything about this player. We're just going to keep in mind that he did check raise us on a flop like that. I might make a note of it if I wasn't recording a video. Again, I make less notes when I'm recording the videos here. So there you go. But like normally I would make notes about those sorts of things and just try to keep an eye on it. Here I think we could go either way. We could check raise or just call here. Check raising isn't bad because, or sorry, not check raising, sorry, re-raising, 3-betting here. So we could raise here, re-raise here because we have a strong hand, or we can just call here. I kind of have been leaning towards just calling in situations like this because we do have a fairly strong hand, and we want to keep in hands that we dominate. So if he's got ace 9, ace 8, ace 7, if we 3-bet, he's probably going to fold, but, anyway, we're going to float this here. That's a good turn card for us, obviously. We're going to check it again to him and see if he wants to hit us with 2 barrels here. He's seen us fold to 2 barrels before, so we're going to go ahead and call it here. The one problem with 3-betting is since we did not 3-bet that flop or pre-flop, we don't know a lot about his range here. So yeah. 7-8, but I mean, we figured most of the time we've got the best hand there. He was on a draw, which could be a reason to maybe I could have check raised on the turn, I guess. And check raising on the turn is something I probably don't do enough. Here in this hand, we're going to try to take initiative here and go ahead and raise. This is a hand you could also call with. It's kind of a speculative hand, but I'm kind of okay with just raising it here pre-flop. You could also just call with this hand since it is a good hand that plays multi-way very well. So we know that if we call with this, obviously this guy is staying in the pot here. He may or may not raise, but yeah. So they just fold to us, though. I think it's okay to be aggressive with those types of drawing hands, too, and get some initiative out and all of that. So far, this guy seems to be raising the button a lot, but we really haven't seen many hands with him, so we don't know for sure what he's doing, what his plan is, and all that. Of course, he just limped the button there, so yeah. I feel like I like raising there most of the time, I think, if we're going to sort of set the standard again, if we're going to be 3-betting, or, well, raising a lot there pre-flop. Not 3-betting because he just limped. Anywho, alright, so we're probably back to even now after my first terrible hand. Yeah, we're slightly up. You can't see it, but we're up 85 cents. Alright. Here we've got ace-jack again in the cutoff. Again, I'm just going to min-bet from the cutoff and the button. I'm just playing around right now with bet sizing. Oh man, that is a crazy dark beer. I really like this beer. I can't... Yeah, it's just like, I mean, the bourbon flavor is just so strong in it. Good beer. Good beer all around. Oh man. Man, that is... It's unlike any other beer I've had. I've had some bourbon barrel-aged beers before. They've all been very good. But this is just, like, so heavy, too. So alcoholic, 16+% alcoholic. Like, that's just crazy, man. Anywho, sorry for those of you who aren't beer lovers, but I will talk beer. Uh-oh. A space on my hard drive, actually. In fact, I'm going to pause for one more second, make sure I'm okay. Alright, I should have plenty of space. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and raise it up here. Okay, I'm just doing my slightly more than a min bet raising from the small blind here. This guy's so tight that I think next time around, or the next time I'm blind versus blind, I'm going to just try min raising, because players that are this super tight often will just fold to min raises. I mean, they're just not opening with anything. And there's no reason for me to risk more money than I need to. With both of these players so far in the blinds, if their stats keep up the way they are, I'm going to raise everything on the button. I will raise deuce 7 right now because these guys are so tight that it's just going to be profitable to do that. I think this is a little better table than last time too. We've got a lot of tighter players, and I don't know. I think my style. I'm kind of used to. Ooh, there's a shove there. I'm kind of used to playing. Obviously, we have to fold here. I'm kind of used to playing a lot more aggressively, and so I like running over sort of these tighter players and that sort of thing. It's kind of what I try to take advantage of. Also, try to get in with a lot of hands. That's why I'm using very small pre-flop bets so that I can get in with a lot of hands. I don't have to spend much to get the tight players to fold, and I can also get in with a lot of hands, a lot of speculative hands, and maybe get something like where they've got top pair, top kicker, and I get a three of a kind or something like that, and just go nuts. That's kind of what we're trying to do here. That's our big picture strategy. But we'll win hands any way we can take it, really. But definitely it's nice to have, we have the two looser players to our right, so we get to see their action first, and the two tighter players to our left. So like right now our position is perfect in this table. We're just doing all right here. Fantastic beer. Sorry, just make you all jealous, huh? All right. So yeah. What else did I want to say? So yeah, so I got some feedback, which I responded to most of the feedback I got in the actual Something Awful forum. So if you take a look at those, you can see all my responses to various hand things. I actually agreed with most of the feedback. I think I made a lot of plays that I normally wouldn't make. I might have just been having an off day, and combined with kind of getting used to doing these recordings while playing poker. It's easy to make plays. Some days you are just playing your C game. Some days you're just against opponents who, for one reason or another, their play just makes you make bad plays. They're kind of picking up on all your weaknesses. So like I said, we're going to try a min raise here and just see what this guy does. And he does fold in the min raise. So since he folds the min raise, then we're just going to min raise it every time, because that's very profitable for us. Not super profitable, we're just stealing blinds, but don't underestimate stealing blinds. It can really add up fast, especially in a table like this where we're not seeing very many flops. Then blind stealing is one of your better ways to make money. But these two guys seem to be very tight, though we haven't seen a ton of hands on them yet. And yeah, we're just going to keep getting shipped the blinds, which I can live with. There are worse ways to make a living. I can even argue opening here with the queen 9 offsuit, but let's not go too crazy. Our VPIP for this session. So again, these stats for me are just for this session, just for the last 29 hands. But yeah, having a VPIP of 55% is a bit above average for me, even as loose as I am. So, don't need to go too crazy. Although if these guys really aren't punishing us or picking up on that or changing their play based on how loose we're playing, and there's really not a reason to, not just keep picking on them. Because even the looser players at this table are still playing fairly tight. And of course, if both the looser players fold to us, it's kind of always profitable to just keep raising here. Look at a little action in this hand. Oh no, our 2-6 would have been so good here. 2-6, slightly less good, but still not bad. Probably the best hand. Yeah, that'd be great. And they both have king queen. That's yeah, it makes sense. I mean, they're both playing very passively though. I mean, none of them are taking stabs at those flops or anything like that. And with because ace high is like a big part of both of their ranges, it does seem like one of them at least should have been taking a stab there, because they had to kind of know that they probably weren't good. Now, as it turned out, right, they had the same hand, so whatever. I'm fine with just checking here. I could potentially raise, but we've raised this guy a few times already. He might fight back, and we don't have a hand that we really want to fight back that much with. He overbets the pot here. I really don't believe his line, but at the same time, we've been picking on this guy a lot. We've been floating a lot already. I'm okay with letting this go, especially since he's potting it here. It just seems odd that he would pot it. I mean, he might be adjusting to our play and like knows that we've been floating. We've seen us float a few hands already, and is like, all right, well, I'm going to make all my bets big when I have a hand, which is a good way to adjust if you do think I'm floating. Um, but I've just really found a lot of times when people pot on a really dry board like that, it's usually just because they don't have a hand and they want you to fold. you know, which is which is exploitable if we see him do that a lot. But right now, um, we haven't seen too much of that going on. So we'll keep an eye on it, see what happens, and we'll adjust our play if that seems like what's happening here. So like I said there, crappy hand, still going to bet it. Still going to bet every hand. This hand's actually all right. So I will go ahead and bet it. And here, look, I don't really see any reason not to keep min betting like we are because everybody's still folding to it. So, just slowly inching along, scooping up some blinds. But I don't mind to get called with this hand here. I don't even mind a small raise with this hand. I'll probably still call, big suited connectors. Pretty good stuff. So this is going to be a little looser open. No, actually, this is fine. Sorry. This would be a looser open for me under the gun, but we're not really under the gun. We're in middle position because this seat's still empty. So yeah, I'm totally fine with opening this here. I was going to say, though, I might even open this under the gun at this table. I mean, obviously, if there's another player, it would change the dynamics. But assuming that player was as tight as these other guys, then, yeah, I'm just going to open up my range a bit. Again, the basic, the old adage is if you're at a table with a bunch of tight players, you want to be the loose player. If you're at a table with a bunch of loose players, you want to be a tight player, and that's a good way to make money. Here we've got middle position opening. Like I said, I'm just going to refer to it as middle position because it is effectively middle position, although a lot of players don't adjust correctly to when there's an empty seat. But, in essence, this is middle position because all you care about is how many players you have acting behind you, really. So I will go ahead and call. This is a speculative hand, but these are kind of the hands that we're trying to get it, going against these really tight players because of flops like this, where we potentially can make some money. Interesting to see what he does here. He very, in his, this is a little tricky because we don't have we don't really have any information on this guy's post flop play. But I am going to go ahead and bet and hope that this guy has like a pocket pair, or maybe he has the ace of spades. And then he folds there. I mean, we probably weren't going to get much money out of him anyway. But we don't know much about this guy's post-flop play just because he's not playing very many hands there. So, I mean, I could have checked to continue to try and slow play or something, and see, or give him a chance to maybe catch up or something. But, I kind of don't want him to catch up if he does just have one spade because it's pretty easy for him to beat our spades. And, yeah, I mean, he seems to be a very passive player from what we've seen, just incredibly nitty, incredibly passive. So there's not much we could do there other than hope he's got a pocket pair and bet into it, or maybe he's got ace queen and bet into that or something like that. This is not the best flop for us here. So we were talking about this in the last video about what do you do when someone just donks at a really weird time. I usually believe the donks, especially from these really nitty players. But I think it's fair enough to call one street here. Other people were saying, yeah, you call, you make a note of it, and you call, and you just move on and whatever. Well, here he goes. If he checks here, I think I'm okay with checking back. I don't know. We don't know a lot about this player's post-flop play either. He very well could have a jack here, so maybe it would have been better to bet earlier in the street. I think at this point we can't really bet. He's going to call if he's got anything. All the better hands are going to call, all the worse hands are going to fold. Maybe he's got ace king or something like that, though, and, was just trying to, yeah, whatever, or trying to draw. Yeah, especially with those kind of drawing hands in his range, it might have made sense for me to bet that turn there, but I really felt like that flop hit more of his range than it hit mine, I guess. And I really felt like this guy's so nitty that he doesn't seem to be the super aggressive type, yet he's sitting there donking this flop. Yeah, I don't know. But I guess as turned out, if he is donking like that, I mean, he's got a pretty strong hand because he's got a straight draw, he's got a flush draw. In fact, I wonder what the exact. Do this in your head. Tell me what the percentages were for that hand. So let's see. So pre-flop, he was actually 49% to my 51%. On the flop, he was actually pretty far ahead with, an over, a straight draw, and a flush draw. Of course, once the turn comes, we become ahead. And so, again, that's kind of where we should be betting and all that. I don't think there's any reason, especially as played, to be betting on that river as well. But you can see these are kind of the percentages. You want to kind of have some general idea of, with a flush draw, straight draw, and a overcard, which that was an open-ended straight draw, you are beating out most of the underpairs there. So, interesting stuff. Stuff you should keep in mind. But yeah, I'm not sure if we played that hand wrong per se. I don't know, because I just felt like any of our bets there, we weren't getting better hands to call. We weren't getting worse hands to fold. With his exact hand, we probably could have gotten a call on the turn when we were just barely ahead. But that's almost like the lowest end of his range, I think, with that donk bet. But again, it depends on how you interpret what those bets mean. This guy's pre-flop, pre-flop raise percentage is 20%. He's not as tight as the other guys. I don't feel bad raising here. And we'll see what he thinks about that. Again, I could see an argument for calling here because you want to maybe keep in the hands you dominate. If he's got, ace king, well, we're screwed either way. And we don't want to inflate the pot then. But no, I mean, I think this hand's strong enough here that we can definitely 3-bet it, feel good about it, all that kind of stuff. And he just folds to us. So yeah, I mean, all this table has been playing not very aggressively, which is just great for our strategy. We're just going to be running him over. Now here's an interesting spot where if this guy folds, we've got a new player at the table. Who knows if he's as nitty as these other guys. But with the big blind being this tight, I'm still going to stick to my guns. Like I said before, raise any hand, including, yes, you'll see it, deuce 7 offsuit, getting the raise on the button. Yeah. So, I don't feel bad about that. Not that I'm trying to be results oriented, but I think that's okay. I mean, we don't know anything about this player, so it could be bad depending on what his opening range is. But we'll just have to see. But for now, I mean, you really care more about the big blind anyway, since he's the one who's more money out there, more likely to call, that sort of stuff, in theory. Here I'm again, since the blinds are so nitty, I'm gonna go ahead and do a nice little min raise, and we'll just see how this guy's responding, what he's doing, and just kind of go from there. But with these two nitty guys in the blinds, I don't mind, and this isn't the worst hand. It's a suited one gapper. I can live with this. If they raise, I'm probably just going to fold because we haven't seen any 3-bets from this guy, and this guy doesn't seem to be doing it much. I mean, they've just pretty much got us crushed, even though this is a nice little drawing hand to have against some big hands and try to get them to stack off. If they made a big 3-bet, I don't think it'd be worth it. So we are actually in the cutoff here, you'll note, because this guy's out, this guy's out. So I'm going to go ahead and raise again here. I would not be raising this from middle position, I don't think. It is a little scary because, we are really looking like we're pushing around the table now, and I think Eventually, even the worst players will usually figure that out. As long as they're not like super distracted, they should notice pretty quickly that, even if they don't have a HUD, they should notice that we're just kind of like every hand we're betting, every hand we're playing, and all that. And I would assume most players are, at least somewhat aware of that and adjusting their play on some level at least. But right now, we haven't been, they haven't been fighting back too much. I'm okay with just letting this go. Six king, not crazy about, not minding too much the fold, except again, this guy's kind of tight enough that I don't, could go either way. When you're playing blind versus blind, it's basically the equivalent of playing heads up. And heads up, I will play that type of hand. So, depending on the player and all that. Let's try our min raise on this guy again too. Again, we're just kind of testing here, just seeing what he's gonna do. Um, and he is folding to the min raise. I talked about this, I don't think in the last video, but I talked about this in the pilot video. I talked about a bit about, that it's just kind of a bad idea to fold to min raises when you're in the big blind, against when you're blind versus blind, because you're going to have position, and basically having position for only another 10 cents to win, a much bigger pot is totally worth that. I think we could fold this. I mean, we're dominated way too often to do anything else. I mean, we're dominant. He almost certainly has a better hand, and a lot of the hands in his range dominate us. I mean, there's just no reason to continue with that hand. But we'll keep an eye out and see if he's kind of figured this out and is starting to fight back. I mean, his 3-bet percentage actually is fairly high, this 13%, but that only represents 2 3-bets this whole session. So this is something you got to be tricky about when you're, you got to really think about when you're using HUDs and stuff. Is what some of these statistics mean, because some of these statistics are only relevant in, aren't relevant in a law, aren't relevant all that often. So like the 3-bet percentage, for example, so there's only been 16 times where he's even been in a situation where he can 3-bet. So, the statistic doesn't have a lot of data, so it's going to be very noisy, if you just happen to get one more better hand, this would be another bigger percent. This would be like 18 or 19%. It looked like he's 3-betting all the time and all that. But you really can't trust that with such a small amount of data. It's just kind of basic statistic stuff, right? Smaller amount of data you have, the noisier it gets, the more sensitive it is to every little measurement. And, with a game like poker where there's a lot of randomness to it, that can make a difference. I didn't pay too close attention to that hand. I kind of want to see what happened there. So big blind raised to 30 cents, or sorry, small blind raised to 30 cents, big blind calls. Here we're just going to check with the K6. This is, I think I'll, because he limped here, I think I will call most bets. We've got a king, so we've got the best, one of the better non-paired hands. Interested to see what he does here. Oh, there's a king for us. It's kind of a interesting card. I think I'm just going to check here and see if maybe he wants to bet on the river here. And then we're just going to call him. Yep. All right, so that worked out well for us. So I feel like I played that hand well, although I didn't talk about it too much, but was kind of around what I was thinking he might have had. In fact, that was kind of on the better end of hands he could have had there, I think. So all right, so he limps in, which means his hand probably isn't that strong. He's got a raised percentage of 11%. So if you just strictly go by the statistics, again, I'm raising deuce 7 here because these guys are so tight. This guy literally has not played a hand yet. Sorry, so going back to this, if you look at the statistics, his hand is, not the strongest, though it could still be fairly strong. And I could look exactly at how often he's been betting blind versus blind, but again, it really doesn't matter because we haven't seen that much data. Point is, he didn't raise, so his hand isn't super, super premium. In fact, there's a good chance his hand doesn't even have an ace in it, like all the aces are out of his range or whatever, because he probably would raise most aces blind versus blind, one would think. Maybe ace deuce or something, he does not. So anyway, so then he c-bets that flop, and what does that mean? he probably didn't hit that ace, so he maybe hit the 9, maybe hit the queen, or maybe he's just c-betting just to c-bet. And he made the bet fairly big, which is kind of a hint that, oh, I want you to fold, or whatever. So, turn card comes a king, and he gets worried, and he checks, and the king is good for us, except, he could be on some weird straight draws and things like that. I could bet out, but I don't know. You could argue betting out there, but I feel like checking's the best because I felt like he was behind. Most likely he was just behind that in that hand. And so then checking there gives him the chance to bluff on the river, which is, he kind of value betted, kind of bluffed on the river. I'm just going to check here. So he kind of value betted, kind of bluffed on the river. I don't know what he was thinking. I think he probably thought he was making a value bet on that river, thinking I might have a 9 or something like that, or, whatever. Okay, it's a good turn card for us. So we are going to bet at this turn here. Sorry, I'm jumping all around here. Things are just happening. These guys won't stop. I'm going to bet 47 cents because I think if I make it too small, there's a lot of hands that are going to call me that I'm not excited about calling me. I don't want like a 2 to call me or something like that. And I think this is big enough to get most 2s to fold, some 7s to fold probably. Yeah, anyway, so what was I saying? So, yeah. So I really felt like on the turn, he might be way ahead, but he probably wouldn't check if he was way ahead. So he's probably behind when he checks there. And so I think it's better for me to just check and hope he bluffs, because if he is behind, I don't think he's calling me because he knows an ace potentially could be in my range, or a king certainly could be in my range, as it was. When the ace comes on the river, I mean, we're pretty certain we have the best hand, and at that point we just have to call, because if we raise there, it's very unlikely he would call us. It was just too wet a board. Here, I could raise. I think I'm just going to call. I could raise there. I don't know. Debating it. Not sure. Check to him here. Backdoor lull. Throws out a big bet. So backdoor lull, donks. This is a guy who's played, one hand or whatever. 2 hands now. Again, okay, yeah. There's not really even a choice here. We fold. Okay. Okay, well, those hands kind of make sense for both of them, I guess. I mean, and I guess it even makes sense for backdoor lulls. C-bet there because he just doesn't want to see any more cards, or not C-bet there, sorry, donk bet there. He's just saying, I don't want to see any more cards. I'm going to put money in the pot now, even though, I know I don't have initiative. I'm just going to put money in the pot because I want you guys to fold. Because I don't want you guys, because the 7s on that board were probably the best hand most of the time. But if you're still 3-handed and it just checks around, then the more cards that come out, the less likely it becomes that is the best hand. I think we can make our bet size whatever we want, and people won't even notice. But we should be consistent here. We'll see what happens. And we do get a call, and we get a flop that kind of sucks for us. I am fine with just checking here, I guess, and to keep the pot small, to maybe get him to bluff at it. Of course, we're going to just call here. We've got a gut shot. We've got a pair. He could just be taking a stab because he has been fairly aggressive. So we'll see what he does here. If he shoots again, though, we're going to have a choice. Obviously, he checks there. We're just going to check it down. Yeah, okay, good. So he had a 9 there. Perfect. Whatever. Sounds good to me. So I think we played that about right. I mean, obviously, he would have folded the flop if we bet there. It was really nice for us that he hit that 9 on the turn. On the river there, when he checks to us, we're pretty sure we have the best hand. We maybe could have bet for value on the river there. What was I saying about this hand? Oh, so I was saying the guy with the 7s, his donk bet actually kind of makes sense there. I think this is one of the situations where you could argue for donk betting, is when you have 7s on a board like this where you're probably ahead, but if more cards come out and you're in a multi-way pot, you could very well end up being behind. And I meant to only min raise there. I bet 25 there. Sorry about that. I've just been talking and thinking too much. Sorry, just jumping around. I'm sorry, getting used to all this stuff happening. Even one table gets crazy when you're casting. I don't understand how these people cast like 5 tables at a time or whatever. They're just much better than I am. All right, so we're folding here, obviously. Um, oh, and I probably got to end the video pretty soon here, actually. I'm sorry. It's funny how quickly the time goes, but I know you guys probably don't want to watch super long videos of some amateur who has no idea what he's doing, playing poker. Here, I don't know anything about the guy in the big blind, so I'm fine with folding. So what was I saying? So yeah, this hand here with the jacks, I feel like I played it. I'm pretty happy with the way I played it, and I'm trying not to just be results oriented. I think I played it about right. Um, you know, we raise obviously, which is what we're going to do. Um, our opponent, the villain, checks, and we just check behind on this flop. There are a lot of turns that would be good for us. Well, I guess like any spade would be good for us. That's really about the only thing that would be good for us. Or, I mean, we could get some potential flush draws, which of course we do, or straight draws, not flush draws. Both. So we have, potential backdoor straight draws, backdoor flush draw, that sort of thing. Here we're just gonna fold the last hand here. But going back to this hand, but so you could argue for betting there just to bet. But I'm fine with just checking there because I feel like hands that are ahead of us are going to call, hands that are behind us are going to fold. It's just not a very good bet, I don't think. There is one reason not to bet like this, and that is because if you always do this, so every time you check back on the flop as last to act as the pre-flop aggressor, it's when you have sort of a middling pair or lower pair that can really be exploited. Like, because if this guy knew, okay, I have jacks or worse when I check that back, then he knows all he's got to do is make big bets on the turn and on the river, and he can probably take this pot down. And I would probably give him credit for it because he's been so tight and all that. At these stakes, the opponents probably aren't keeping track of that kind of stuff, not really thinking on that level most of the time, so we're probably safe, I think. So I might give more thought to that, might try to mix it up, but I feel like it was a fairly wet flop, and either we're way ahead or we're way behind. Of course, we got lucky on the turn. I thought the turn bet might have even been just a bluff because the guy's been very aggressive, but he actually hit a pair, and so he bets at it. And then we get to the river, and he checks to us, and at that point, I mean, it's just very clearly, remember, when you're doing the river bets, you got one of two reasons. Either you want hands that are better than yours to fold, or hands that are worse than yours to call. And I don't think he's calling with the nines here, which, are the biggest worse hand than us, basically. And I don't think he's folding any queens or kings the way we played this, without betting the flop when we've been this aggressive. So I think the best bet's just a check there. And of course, we did have the best hand. We got lucky because he had the pair, so he made a bet, etc., etc. Anywho, I think that's going to be it for us today. We did end up a little bit up. Let me see here what our HUD has told us. Oh, nothing because I exited out. But we ended up with like 16 or something, but then we had lost 2 at the beginning, so we're probably $4 or $5 up or something for the session. So that more than makes up for our last session. So yay for that. But yeah, no, I felt pretty good about that session. Maybe not as many crazy, super interesting spots, but kind of one of those spots where you can see where, even if you are typically a very tight player, I think you're going to make a lot more money at a table like this if you start just getting very aggressive, just going after every pot, every pre-flop, just playing most of your hands. I think you're going to make a lot of money if you shift gears. And I feel like I'm very good at shifting gears towards being aggressive. I'm probably not as good at shifting gears towards being tighter, although I try to in tables that are very aggressive and all that. But certainly, I hope, I think there's less super aggressive players at these stakes, so you can kind of see, though, if you kind of adjust your strategy at these stakes, it actually can be pretty profitable to be this aggressive. And I think this is pretty typical for a table like this, where you're just going to keep running over them, keep stealing blinds. Your C bets are usually going to take the pot down because a lot of these guys have very high fold seed bets, and their ranges are so transparent. You can usually just look at the flop and go meh. I also think that players who are like incredibly tight, like this guy here, 12-8, if that's accurate, whatever. I think they tend to have just crappy post flop skills. And so you can very easily manipulate the pot to exactly what you want to do. So you can do things that normally would be very exploitable, like just always checking with middle pair and stuff like that. That normally a good player could pick up on that and exploit it, but a player who's just very bad at playing post flop, who just is all about, I'm just going to play the best hand pre flop and, whatever, and then I'll probably have the best hand post flop, whatever. Like, you can really manipulate that because you know exactly what their range is, and you know that they're probably not going to be aggressive enough to take advantage of your leaks or anything like that. And you can really just control the pot size and all that good stuff. So I, Hey guys, sorry about that. As you can see, I'm recording this last bit on a different day here. I'm wearing a different shirt, have a different beer. So totally different. So sorry about that. Had some weird video glitch. Anyway, I just want to, session was over anyway. I felt like it was a great session. I think it was a really, the kind of table that my style really tends to take advantage of, which of course, ultimately to be a great poker player, I want to be able to adapt to any type of table. But here, I think we did pretty well. I'm pretty happy with how I played most of it. But please, like I said, feel free to give me feedback. Write back stuff either here in the comments for the video, or write it back over at Something Awful forums, or wherever else. But thanks a bunch for watching, and I will see you next week or something like that. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.